1937, the world's most famous aviator vanished into thin air. Amelia Earhart set off on a daring journey around the globe and never returned. Was she captured? Did she crash into the Pacific? Or did she survive in secret? This is the mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance, one of the greatest unsolved cases in history. Earhart was no ordinary pilot. By 1937, she was already an icon, admired as much for her courage as for her determination to break barriers in a world where aviation was still very much a man's field. Amelia Earhart wasn't just a pilot, she was a legend. In 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, proving women could conquer the skies just like men. By the mid-1930s, she had set record after record in speed and altitude. Her determination and courage inspired millions. Now, at just 39 years old, Earhart was chasing her most ambitious dream yet, a 29,000-mile flight around the globe, one that would cement her name forever in aviation history. The world watched her flight with fascination. Her Lockheed Electra, a twin-engine silver aircraft, had been specially modified for long-distance travel with extra fuel tanks. Earhart and Noonan had already covered an astonishing 22,000 miles. Their journey began on May 20, 1937, from Oakland, California, heading east. They crossed South America, Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. By the end of June, they had reached La, New Guinea, the second-to-last stop before Hawaii, and then home to the United States. The next leg of the journey, from La to Howland Island, was the most dangerous. Howland was a tiny speck in the Pacific, just 2 miles long and half a mile wide. Finding it required precise navigation, and in 1937, there was no GPS, only radio signals and charts. On the morning of July 2, 1937, at 10 a.m. local time, Earhart and Noonan took off from La. The plan was simple: fly northeast for about 2,556 miles, locate Howland Island, refuel, and continue on. Waiting for her on the island was the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca, equipped with powerful radio transmitters to guide her in. Hours passed. Radio operators aboard the Itasca strained to hear her voice. Earhart's transmissions grew increasingly urgent as the flight wore on. At 7:42 a.m. Howland time, she radioed, "We must be on you, but cannot see you. Gas is running low." At 8:43 a.m., her final message crackled across the airwaves, "We are on the line 157 to 337. We are running north and south." Then, silence. Despite intense efforts, the Itasca never made contact again. Earhart's Electra had vanished somewhere over the Pacific, the largest search in history. The disappearance sent shockwaves around the globe. The U.S. government immediately launched what was then the largest search and rescue operation in history. President Franklin D. Roosevelt authorized a fleet of 9 ships, 66 aircraft, and over 4,000 men to scour the Pacific. For 16 days, the Navy and Coast Guard searched an area of 250,000 square miles. They found nothing: no plane, no wreckage, no bodies. On July 19, 1937, the official search was called off. Earhart and Noonan were declared lost at sea, but for millions of people, that explanation was far from satisfying. The theories and rumors. From the moment her plane vanished, rumors spread like wildfire. Some believed the official explanation: she had simply run out of fuel and crashed into the vast Pacific Ocean. Others, however, suspected something far more mysterious: the crash and sink theory. The simplest theory is that Earhart missed Howland Island, ran out of fuel, and ditched in the ocean. In 2018, a study by the ocean research group Nauticos calculated her likely crash zone near Howland, but deep-sea searches have still found nothing. The Gardner Island, Nkumuroro hypothesis. In 1940, British colonial officers discovered human bones, a woman's shoe, and a sextant box on Gardner Island, now Nkumuroro, about 350 miles from Howland. The bones were sent to Fiji, but later lost. Modern forensic studies suggest they may have belonged to a tall woman of European descent, possibly Earhart. Some theorists argue she and Noonan landed on the reef and died as castaways, captured by the Japanese. Another popular theory claims Earhart and Noonan were captured by Japanese forces. According to this version, they were suspected of being American spies. Rumors swirled that they were taken to Saipan, interrogated, and executed. In 1960, the U.S. Navy publicly dismissed this idea, but it continues to attract believers. Secret U.S. mission. Some conspiracy theorists claim Earhart's flight was actually a secret reconnaissance mission for the U.S. military, and that her disappearance was covered up. A few even suggested she returned to the U.S. under a new identity. Unsolved messages from the airwaves. Adding fuel to the mystery were dozens of radio distress calls reported in the days following Earhart's disappearance. Amateur operators across the Pacific claimed to have heard her voice, faint and desperate, calling for help. Some reported the plane had landed on an island. However, the U.S. Navy dismissed most of these signals as hoaxes or misinterpretations. To this day, no one can be certain if those radio calls were real. Amelia's enduring legacy. On January 5, 1939, Amelia Earhart was officially declared dead by the U.S. government. She was just 41 years old. Yet her disappearance did not end her story, it only made it more powerful. In the decades since, Amelia Earhart has become a symbol of courage, adventure, and mystery. She inspired generations of women to pursue aviation, engineering, and exploration. Streets, schools, and even airports have been named in her honor. Her plane, the Lockheed Electra, remains one of the most sought-after relics in aviation history. Numerous expeditions, costing millions, have searched the ocean floor around Howland Island, but the wreck has never been found. The search for Amelia continues even today. In 2019, forensic anthropologists re-examined the measurements of the bones found on Gardner Island and suggested they were a close match to Earhart. In 2022, an advanced deep-sea drone expedition scanned the ocean near Howland but again came up empty-handed. Each time new evidence surfaces, it reignites the same questions that have haunted historians for nearly a century. Did Amelia crash into the Pacific, her Electra sinking to the ocean floor? Did she survive as a castaway, her final days spent on a lonely reef? Or was she caught in the shadowy politics of a world on the brink of World War II? A mystery without end, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. What makes it so enduring is not just the lack of answers, but the sense of unfinished destiny. She was so close, just 7,000 miles away from completing her record-breaking journey. As one historian once said, Earhart did not simply vanish into the Pacific. She vanished into legend. Even now, more than 87 years later, people still look to the skies and wonder. Somewhere beneath the waves or hidden in the archives of history lies the truth. Until it is found, Amelia Earhart's story will remain suspended between fact and myth, a haunting reminder of both the triumphs and the mysteries of human exploration.